What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology. The Titans action spawning in the right side of the map in the red color, playing as Odin. His name is Suppe. His opponent today in the blue color playing as Set. His name is Joe. Yes, this is the map competitive mega random. It should be used to it by now. We're in the final game of the round of 16. The next round is the round of 8. For those of you playing at home, that means not a whole lot. There's not a lot of differences in terms of the rules for whoever wins this one to the next one. It's going to be another best of 5. Best of 7 is for the semifinals, which is round of 4. And then you have your best of 9 for the finals. However, these players both valiantly fighting their way to get into this situation in this stage of the tournament and actually somewhat headbutting in a very, very blockbuster matchup here. Suppe versus Joe. Suppe, one of the strongest of the Norse players with a fairly unique style at that, playing his Odin and his Thor. Very, very interestingly, very aggressive, very different. And Joe, on the other hand, well, I mean, he kind of needs no introduction. He's always in the later ends of tournaments throughout his Age Mythology career, if you can call it that. And he is going to be just demonstrating in this first game all about Set. And potentially we're going to be seeing why a lot of the top players are well, especially the Norse mains, are a little bit scared of Set. The Norse mains don't like Set for a myriad of different reasons. So we can go through a little bit of them to start with. So first one, maybe not so obviously, is Shifting Sands. Now, Shifting Sands, if you were Ra, isn't actually as strong as you might think, because you don't have that vision. You don't have that god power, which if you use in tandem with Shifting Sands can really create some havoc. When it comes to Odin and Norse, a lot of their advantage comes from their quick movement speed, their ability to react and deny and put pressure and all this other good stuff. But against Vision Shifting Sands, that just means that at any point in the game, the Set player can click those two buttons and be on you and be putting pressure. So you have to kind of be really prepared for that throughout the entire game and not have yourself with any super gaping weaknesses, as it were. And then beyond all of that, there's a couple of other pretty bonkers strategies. For example, you've got your Anubites, you've got your fast mythics, you've got your 2 town center classical fights, you've got your 1 town center classical fights. All of this stuff very, very strong for Set. So I'm excited to see what Suppe's going to come up with here in this game. We do have a Borderlands-esque map here with the straight line of cliff coming straight through the middle of the map. And not only that, we are actually seeming like we are hitting an incredibly low hunt map here on this spawn of mega random. I don't think I've seen much hunt just yet here for these players. So this, you might think that this is an advantage for the Odin player, because he can actually cast Great Hunt, get himself a little bit extra advantage in the early game, but you're only really going to get 2 extra boar. And what actually happens is the Set player can just sit back and boom and be really happy, get a couple of monuments out, make the animals of Set, and then just sit back and enjoy their life where that's concerned. Now, beyond all of that, we have actually seen that Suppe getting a little bit unlucky with the goats. He's only actually found 8 goats here, and on the low hunt maps on Mega Random, oftentimes there is a ton of goat spawns. As we can see that right now, Joe's actually got himself 17 goats to Suppe's 8. And beyond all of that, you can also, Joe could Shifting Sands and take those goats around that town center as well, if he so chooses. Yeah. So we'll see if that's what he's going to do. I haven't actually seen any priests getting built or anything like that. So Joe clearly looking to go for a fast second town center here. Not really too many surprises here. This is fairly standard Joe. He's advancing pretty quickly here. 4 minutes and 2 seconds is right on the money for that advance time, and he's going to be throwing up this town center incredibly fast over here. As we do see the vision onto his opponent's base here, and I think we're going to see a Shifting Sands here onto these goats. We'll see if he's going to decide to do it or not. He's just checking out what's in the base. Suppe not making any effort to split up his goats here. This is a big, big mistake against the Set, and Joe just going to take those goats, and now Joe is going to be incredibly happy with this. 25 goats in his base, no food on the map whatsoever, and Suppe has now only got himself a handful of food left. He's got his chickens, he's got his berries, he's got 2 goats remaining, 3 goats remaining here, 4 goats, 5 goats remaining, 6 goats remaining actually. So not as little as I thought, but Still, all being equal here, Joe's got to be happy with that usage. But then again, Soup doesn't have to worry about shifting sands anymore, so we'll see what he's going to be able to come up with. He's going to be throwing down a town center immediately. He knows his opponent's gone for the second town center. On a low hunt map, it's a little bit more challenging for players to go for aggressive one town center shenanigans. However, on a map like this, given the situation that Soup has and the fact that it's such low food, I say low food, I should say low hunt, there is a real opportunity here for Soup to hit one town center timings through Njord here against Joe's set. So the thing is, I mean, if you were, that's pretty cute there with the building block and forcing out a forest fire. But if you think about the way that Joe plays, and this is not going to be true for every single set player, but the way that Joe plays is he always gets these monuments really late, which means his timings are off in terms of how fast he can get to the heroic age off of 2 town centers. So a perfectly played early game from a set player. These granaries. This is such a obnoxious play here from Joe thus far, but he's just trying to get in and get out with his Valkyrie. Soup's just like, no, just let me out. But nice play from Joe, nonetheless, as the scouting is continuing here. Town center almost up. But as I was saying, the thing about Joe, and you can kind of play to your opponent a little bit, is because he doesn't get the monuments out correctly, not going to be able to actually hit 7:30 to 8 minute heroic ages very consistently off of 2 town centers on those low hunt maps. Set can actually hit a 7:30, I believe, off of 2 town centers, which is kind of mind-blowing. When you think about it, you got to get the 2, if you have the right starting hump, you get the 2 monuments, you get 4:30 advance time, you build Gazelle out of your Pharaoh, you send them to both town centers, you make all the villages, you advance to the heroic age of 7:30, 7:45, 8 minutes at the very latest. And any sort of Njord timing attacks aren't really going to work too well because Ancestors will be available. However, against Joe, he advances really late. You can definitely hit a 7 minute 30 heroic age here off of 1 town center, and then Walking Woods and just go after this town center and live the dream where that's concerned, and then go for some sort of gold staff behind that. As we are seeing, the goat's going to be making their way up to the top side of the map. Joe's going to be very far behind on those resources. So we'll see what Soup's going to do now. So Soup's got himself these 2 town centers. He's got his villages over here on the wood, throwing up the walls over here as well, trying to be nice and defensive. Longhouse is coming down as well as an armory here. So there's also a 2 town center fast heroic, which is really strong for Norse players, because on low hunt maps, if you can actually get to the heroic age, it's really strong, because then you can just go everything onto gold and just build a market and just pump food out of that market in order to build those units and hit a really strong timing against your opponents. As a Valkyrie going to be sitting back here. We'll see if that's what Soup's going to be going for or not. I mean, just getting the walls up is going to be nice. There's the Titan's treasure here. We've already got walls coming up for Joe. He's sending his villages out all over the place. The Hyena have set over here, just checking out that. And if we have to take another kind of look at the map before we actually start getting into the more exciting things in this game, one of these weaknesses that Soup's going to have to overcome here, and that Joe's already overcome, is that second town center. So Joe's second town center is now exposed because of the forest fire here, but so too is Soup's second or third town center, I should say. Third town center. This will be the second town center at the back. So the third town center being super exposed, super far away from where Soup is building. He's actually building on arguably the wrong side of the map here. He's walling this off, makes perfect sense, but he should be making his way over onto this town center to secure this one, and then trying to secure the parts of the map where the Egyptian player hasn't secured. So maybe sending a wall builders forward or something like that, as we are seeing Nephthys now coming through for Joe. It's going to be about a 9-minute advance time off of 2 town centers, which is definitely on the slower side of fast heroics. And Soup going to be advancing fairly shortly as well. But you have to remember that Soup's also built himself a handful of Herser, and he's built himself a longhouse. He's built himself all of these houses, which cost resources. And he doesn't have the extra hunt. So getting to the heroic edge a little bit later here makes a lot of sense. So he's going through Skadi, makes perfect sense. Definitely want to be using that one if you're not going for a timing attack with Njord to counter out the Nephthys, the Ancestors, and all the other good stuff that comes from that. So we are seeing more walls coming up over here for Joe. Just wants to be as defensive as he possibly can and getting that boom happening. Now, In a boom war, Set actually falls behind here quite considerably against Odin. So he's going to have to hit some kind of a timing here. You can't just boom here in this matchup. I mean, Joe might be able to because he's insane, but I don't feel like you can just boom here and get away with it, as we are seeing the villagers finishing up on these berries. Does he have himself husbandry? Yes, he does. As those herdables are starting to fatten up. I mean, so too Joe's herdables. Does he have himself husbandry as well? Yes, he does. He's got himself husbandry. He's got himself pickaxe, getting himself Shadoof through very shortly here. Already in the heroic age. We don't see a Migdol anywhere just yet. Maybe he's coming over here. Migdol on this location to secure this town center. This is what I was talking about. Suppe is allowing this Migdol to come up here on his town center, on this gold mine. And this is going to be mostly a problem that Suppe could have avoided here had he built on this side of the map first. Had he been over here nice and early and kind of been aware of how difficult securing this town center is going to be, or at least that it's an important thing that he needs to be aware of. Could have built these walls, could have come over to the bottom side of the map, slammed the hill fort down, been okay here, but he's actually just allowing Joe to get free map control here for no reason. Suppe, on the other hand, though, going for a 2 town center fast mythic here, it would seem. He is throwing down the hill fort. Did we see a market anywhere? I don't see the market anywhere. We are starting to see those units moving forward as a Raven is flying overhead to check out what's going on in the bottom corner of the map here. The Huskarl are starting to come out. Medium infantry going to be coming through as well as raiding cavalry. So Suppe just not spending his resources here. You can see that Joe's resources are very, very low. Chucking down a longhouse. I thought that was going to be a fast mythic here, but definitely not, as just a little bit slow on the building spam here, it would seem, in order to spam out all of those units. So Huskarl and everything else can be really, really useful here in this fight. Huskarl raiding cavalry, Huskarl throwing axemen. Kind of everything you need at this point, because there's no axemen out for Joe just yet. So we are going to be seeing an Oxcart getting shot down here as the Huskarl jumping into the central town. Nice snipe there for Joe, just getting a cheeky win there. But the town center is up, and now Joe's got map control. Map control without having to fight for it. So things get a little bit spicy here. So Suppe's got to decide, all right, does he go for Mythic Age here? Does he try and go for a Ragnarok timing against the greedy 3 town centers? I mean, Joe's going to be at 80 villages very, very soon. Have a lot of economy to power through and defend against a Ragnarok. Does he go for full Heroic Age push? He's getting himself heavy infantry here. There are some early champion infantry 2 town center ideas which work really, really well, which we've seen players like Shadowfax doing in the past, and a couple of other Norse players, but I definitely think he's been kind of the one really wanting to do it the most. We are seeing Suppe sending his Skraeling to the corner of the map to maybe build a market here as his heavy infantry does come through. The army here of Joe going to be moving up to the top side of the map here as the unit's going to try and break through this wooden wall over on that location there, as the market is indeed going to be going up here. As we see a secondary wall getting thrown down. This is very, very standard here. I mean, at least you can say, at least Joe's reactively doing this, and that's something at the very least, as we are seeing those units now coming through for Joe. Joe's going to be able to hit the Mythic Age very, very shortly here. Now, you do have to remember he had tons of more goats than Suppe here. Suppe just about to run out of his own goats, but tons of units over on this side now. We might be seeing an attempt at pushing through here as soon as those units do pop up on this top side of the map here. I can imagine Suppe will just say, all right, time to attack. He's got his units out of position, no problems. We do see Tyr coming through and Horus coming through here. An interesting decision. I actually think that Ragnarok might have been arguably the better option here. There's no real way for a gold starve though, but in an effort to try and match the opponent, take out this town center and get map control back, we are going to be seeing these walls getting taken down immediately here, as units are very much out of position, going to be breaking through this location. The wall's going to be getting taken down very quickly over here as well, as we see the siege works getting taken out. Tyr on the way, Horus on the way, very, very close together. So I would assume that the Fimbulwinter is going to come off first, unless Joe is ready to click that one instantly here. Let's check out the economic upgrades and the building upgrades. No upgrades here for Suppe. He's got himself decent upgrades. No plow just yet, but I'm sure plow is going to be coming through fairly soon. He's got options to get himself Winter Harvest as well, as we are going to be seeing the town center getting taken down over here as the chariot archers wandering through to start getting some good damage done. But it is looking like there's nobody repairing this one for Joe, so this might get taken out incredibly fast here as those mercenary are all getting pumped out though, doing tons of damage to the Huskarls that are getting destroyed incredibly quickly here. And Soup deciding maybe it's time to retreat away as he does pull his units just a little bit. The Huskarl going to be getting brought off of the town center to come over here and take this one out. We do see the frost getting used onto this location, hitting all those villages, hitting all of the army. The town center about to fall. It does end up going down. Those mercenary here do manage to not get frosted though, as the Horus just about to pop. So too is Soup's tier, as the Pharaoh getting targeted down here by this super low HP her. So there's the Fimbulwinter getting cast immediately here onto this position here, going to be delaying any attempt at using the Nephthys ancestors as well, as it's going to come in over here. We do see a cheeky raid onto this position. A couple of units already over here. We've got the Ragnarok, not the Ragnarok, the Fimbulwinter in the main base here of Jojo's got plenty of resources in the bank right now. One of the weaknesses right now for this Fimbulwinter seems to be that it's actually hitting the frosted units. Maybe holding it for just a little bit might not have been a bad idea, as the gold villagers do finish up over here. They will want to move forward onto this gold mine. There is a gold mine over here, but there's really not that much left on this map at all. Another reason why maybe going for something a little bit different in terms of the mythic edge might have been an option here. But Soup does manage to get himself a bit of a score lead here, but he does have to fight against two god powers still. Joe's got himself Horus, he's got himself Nephthys, and we are going to be seeing that Ancestors getting thrown down onto this position over here as the Dwarves making their way forward. There are a handful of those Ulfjarls out already, so they're going to be able to take down those Ancestors very, very fast here as the heavy throwing axemen making their way over onto this location here. And Soup's pressure has been thwarted here for the time being, as Joe's going to be getting himself his settlement up incredibly fast here, and he's going to be really, really happy about that one, because it just means all he's got to do is defend. If he just defends until the end, until he kind of hits the village max, which is basically already at with the 6 camel caravans as well, as the Ancestors does end up getting cleaned up here. Hillfort going to be going down over on this location. An attempt here from Soup to transition over onto this location of the map to maybe take down this town center while the army is preoccupied with the hill fort over here. We do have a handful of farms, good farming right now for Soup, as he still doesn't have any of those really, really important farming upgrades, which is kind of why he's got a decent amount of resources in the back, but he needs to get himself fortified town centers, be spending those resources a little bit. Maybe a handful of Fenris wolf broods wouldn't go astray here, as the army is now going to be marching forward. We've got the medium axemen out, winter harvest, irrigation, both coming down at the same time. There is no attempt at getting fortified town centers masons right now, which is a big, big mistake, considering it does help defend against any sorts of tornado shenanigans here. As a Hellfork going to be coming up on the front over here, trying to deal with these units as the army pushing in. Do we have ourselves upgrades on these medium axemen? Not just yet. Stonewall's going to be coming in. We do see the tornado getting dropped here into the main base of Soup. Soup going to be running his villagers over here. The town center will 100% fall here, especially with a siege tower to help out in the back. But just because you don't have masons, even after a couple of houses and other buildings have been taken out, it's a little bit brutal here for Soup, as his hill fort going to be dropping. He kind of needs to retreat back here at this point and defend against this push. Those Jarls that he had out would have been a big, big help here, but right now Soup has fallen down to 75 population maximum here. He's just over the max right now with 105, getting himself heavy cavalry as well, as the throwing axemen here are kind of useless, as now the chariot archers are going to be scouting around looking for some villages to snipe out, as they will indeed find these villages over here that are moving around. We will be seeing the ox cart getting taken out over here, as we are going to be having the watchtowers getting destroyed. The main base is getting completely cleaned up, and in that moment here, Soup does decide to tap out. Soup tries to make it work, and he was in a position here that was decent. I feel like his strategy was correct in that, okay, his opponent went for 2 town centers, kind of low hunt, 2 town center, fast heroic, makes a lot of sense here. However, I don't know why he didn't go for this town center first. After Shifting Sands was used early, he should just go, all right, let's go and grab that 4 town center. There's no real There's no real risk where that's concerned. Just take that one for himself. Throw buildings around here, or even if he does want this town center, he needs to throw his buildings up over onto this town center first, 100%. Because having to push through this with 2 god powers just levels the playing field and allows the set player the kind of to just take it back if you haven't completely cleaned up this army. There is a world here where I thought that Ragnarok was actually the correct play as well, especially against Set, where Set doesn't have access to the mummies, doesn't have access to Osiris. So if you go Ragnarok nice and early, with a handful of ox caravans behind it, then you can retech after it. You get your town center, you retech, you get your economy, you reboom all of this stuff, and can take out the set player half decently. But I'm not sure that Suppe was really ready to make that kind of a risk. He wanted to kind of outplay Joe a little bit here, but Joe gets the first win. A solid play here from Joe. Nonetheless, he's always playing this game at a very, very high level, regardless of how many games he actually manages to play in a year. If you guys enjoyed this one, please consider hitting follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTubes, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next game.